Brother Juniper once asked St. Francis, "Teach me to preach as eloquently as you. I am not good with words." "I will teach you to preach, and more eloquent than I," said Francis. "Meet me tomorrow, and I shall teach you to preach." Brother Juniper dutifully met Francis the next morning. To Juniper's surprise, they began walking. They walked through the marketplace, smiling at the laborers, the merchants, the children. They helped an elderly woman carry her wash up the stairs. They walked. Finally, an exasperated Brother Juniper asked, "Francis, when shall you teach me to preach?" Replied the saint, "Why, we are preaching." This weekend, we are offering this celebration of the Eucharist with Pax Christi for the intention of blessed Franz Jägerstätter, a martyr executed by the Nazis on August 9, 1943, by the guillotine at the age of 36, and his wife Franziska, who eventually died at the age of 100. What is Pax Christi? Pax Christi was founded at the end of World War II by French and German Catholics who wanted to reconcile after being separated by war. It's now grown to become the International Catholic Peace Movement, with chapters in over 60 countries and a mission to live the peace of Christ by making the world safe from all forms of violence and injustice at the personal, communal, and national levels. Who was Franz Jägerstätter, you may ask? Franz Jägerstätter was born in the small village of Ruggenden in Austria in 1907. The illegitimate son of Rosalia Huber, a maidservant, and Franz Bachmeier, a farmer, he was initially raised by his grandmother, Elisabeth Huber. She was a deeply pious woman. His mother married Heinrich Jägerstätter, a farmer from the neighboring village, in 1917, and adopted the boy shortly after that. Young Franz had a reputation for being a bit wild, bolstered by the fact that he fathered a daughter, Hildegard of Auer, out of wedlock in 1933. He also was the leader of a local motorcycle gang. He was arrested with other members in 1934 for a street brawl. But on Holy Thursday in 1936, he married Franziska Schwanenegger, an extremely devout Christian woman. This marriage proved to be a turning point in Franz's life as he began making his way as a farmer and a miner. The two began praying together, and Franz began to study the Bible and eventually taking a particular interest in the lives of the saints. Franz later wrote that the Bible became the couple's journey for everyday life. Nazism was growing in Europe and eventually reached Austria. Upon first hearing of it, Franz immediately rejected Anschluss, the Nazi annexation of Austria in March of 1938. With no desire to join the Nazi bureaucracy in any way, he rejected the position of mayor of St. Ruggenden that he was offered later that month. Despite his resistance, Franz was drafted into the Wehrmacht in June 1940 and trained for a few months, but soon received a deferment. He was conscripted again in October, at which time he completed his training. Meanwhile, in December 1940, he joined the Third Order of St. Francis and worked in the local parish church. Then he received yet another deferment in 1941 under an exemption for working farmers. Franz was called up again for military service in the Wehrmacht on February 23, 1943, and he reported to military officials in Enns, Austria, in March 1st. However, he refused to take an oath of loyalty to Adolf Hitler, stating that his objections to serving the military were on moral grounds. Franz was immediately arrested and transported to a holding cell in Linz, where he remained until May 4, 1943, at which time he was transferred to the Berlin Tegel prison to await trial. Franz was subsequently court-martialed and sentenced to death in Berlin, Charlottenburg on July 6, 1943. According to an excerpt from his court-martial hearing, Franz informed military officials that, due to his religious views, he refused to perform military service with a weapon, that he would be acting against his religious conscience were he to fight for the Nazi state, that he could not both be a Catholic and a Nazi. Franz remained largely forgotten for decades after his execution at the young age of 36. But that all started to change in 1964 with the publication of his biography, In Solitary Witness, published by the American sociologist, pacifist, and professor Gordon Zahn. In 1965, Archbishop Thomas submitted a formal statement affirming Franz's heroics. Martyrs like Jägerstätter should never feel they are alone, he wrote. 6 years later, Austrian television aired a documentary on his life entitled The Refusal. On May 7, 1997, Franz's original death sentence was officially overturned by the Landgericht Berlin's district court. The procedure to beatify Franz Jägerstätter, an official Catholic declaration that a person has lived a holy life and in stepping stones to sainthood, was officially begun in 1997 after the Austrian Bishops' Conference unanimously voted to support it. The Vatican officially confirmed his martyrdom on June 1, 2007, and his wife and 3 daughters gathered at the Linz Cathedral on October 26, 2007 to observe his official beatification by Pope Benedict. With that high honor bestowed upon him, Franz may one day be declared an actual saint for his defiance of the Nazis. But even outside of the church, his legacy has become celebrated around the world. During his incarceration, Franz wrote a series of letters to his wife, which were published in 2009, Letters and Writings from Prison. Those letters were a major source for the 2019 film A Hidden Life, written and directed by Terrence Malick, that brought the heart-wrenching story of Franz to life to more people than ever before. The sacred scriptures today speak of perseverance in prayer and good works. I believe it is fair to say that the life of Franz was a living and breathing sermon of how to preach simply by walking a life of faith with integrity of heart. Is that not the very request of Juniper to St. Francis? As Franz is now beatified, join me and others in their request to have him declared a saint in the church, hopefully a saint born from the horrors of Nazi Germany. The official trailer of the movie, Hidden Life, can be viewed on YouTube. It depicts the simple yet courageous life of Franz Jägerstätter. Perhaps, of each of us, as did Brother Juniper walk with St. Francis, Franz Jägerstätter, along with his wife and 3 children, there would no longer be a need to preach, and we would all walk an authentic life filled with hope, love, and faith.